Today marks an important day in history. Today marks my birthday! Happy birthday, me! And what better way to celebrate my 24 years of life on this planet than to review 24 A24 movies. Films. Excuse me. I was going to start with the first movie they made, but...
I don't know, maybe not from this particular terrestrial realm.
When was the last time you used?
I use a blender, I use a vacuum cleaner, I use, household items because that's how I roll. I have one speed, I have one gear. Go. Yeah, I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen. It's not available because if you try it once, you will die. Your face will melt off and your children will weep over your exploded body. You're dealing with a Vatican assassin. Sorry.
So I'm going to start at an arbitrary place and begin from there. Sound good? Well, too bad. It's my birthday, and I get to choose. This one. The Florida Project? Alright. I'm a Willem Dafoe fanboy. Let's give it a watch. How long does it stay here for? The movie follows the lives of several individuals at a low-budget motel in Kissimmee, Florida, right outside of Disney World. We have Haley and her daughter Mooney, Ashley and her son Scooty, Grandma Stacy and her granddaughter Jancy, and Bobby, the manager of the motel. Mooney and Scooty are best friends and are always with each other. You can never separate these two. They then end up meeting Jancy, who they take under their wing. These kids are constantly getting into mischief, but they truly are innocent at heart. They're children after all. They don't have a full grasp of how unlucky they actually are to be living there. They were born and raised in this type of lifestyle, and that's the heartbreaking part of this movie. Or one of them, I should say. It's hard to watch the contrast of the innocence of these children compared to the cruel and unfortunate circumstances they have no control over. Haley, Mooney's mom, is a freeloader who mooches off everybody, including her closest friends. She even has her daughter go get food from the restaurant her friend Ashley works at. She gets into a fight with Ashley later in the movie, causing Ashley's face to bruise and swell, but then has the audacity to ask her rent money when she can't afford hers after losing her job as a dancer. I understand the pain of not having a job or being able to pay rent, but that's pretty low. She raises Mooney in a terrible environment and never provides the things any mother should. But does that stop Mooney from living her best life? No. Ashley, Scooty's mom, does a better job of raising him, but a low-budget motel is still not an ideal place to raise a child. She keeps a job as a waitress, but she doesn't bring much money in. And while she's at work, she has no one to watch Scooty, which generally leads him to get into trouble. Mooney and Scooty, and eventually Jancy, run around on their own with very little adult supervision and get into all kinds of antics. They spit on people's cars, they cause a blackout in the motel, they even burn down an abandoned house at one point. Accidentally, but that doesn't lessen the severity of what they've done. But even though their parents are rarely around, they still try to live their lives to the best. They're children after all. This is what they're used to. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking. Seeing the innocence of these children brings a smile to your face. Seeing them have fun and just be kids is made ever more hard to watch when you see the external factors that make their lives so much harder than most. This is especially exemplified when, at the end, when Mooney is being taken away from her mother after she was found soliciting prostitution in her room. She runs away from Child Protection Services to say bye to her friend Jancy. But Jancy doesn't want her best friend to leave, so they both run away and go to Disney World. Isn't that perfect? When you were a kid and things got really hard for you, you would think about running away. And if Disney World was right across the street from you, I'm sure you'd run there too. It's a hauntingly beautiful scene that perfectly showcases the contrast of the innocence of these kids compared to the unfortunate circumstances they find themselves in. On the other hand, Bobby, the manager, is genuinely a good man. He does have a tense relationship with his son and ex-wife. I mean, who doesn't? But that doesn't take away from what he does. He has no responsibility as manager to look over any one of his tenants, but that's not the kind of person he is. He tries to keep the children out of trouble. He lets them play in his office even if it is distracting his work. He gives everybody multiple chances. He does constantly threaten eviction for Haley, but he continuously gives her second chances because he knows she has a daughter and he doesn't want to make their lives any harder than they already are. Bobby really tries to make the best of an unfortunate situation. His kindness and forgiveness makes it even harder to watch when Mooney is being taken away from her mother. He gives Haley all these chances and tried to look out for these kids, but in the end, it wasn't up to him to make Haley a better parent. This movie really emphasizes the point that it is up to you to make the best of your circumstances. It shows both sides. Bobby and the children try to look at things in a more positive light. Mooney, Scooty, and Jancy were put in this unfortunate situation, but they still have a positive outlook on everything. Bobby works at this seedy motel and has to deal with some really low-life people, but that doesn't make him jaded or cynical. He still tries to make the place look as nice as he can. He still tries to make all of his tenants as happy as they can be. I'm sure he doesn't want to work there, but that doesn't mean he won't try his best to make the best of the circumstances. Haley, on the other hand, is resentful of the situation that was dealt for her. We don't know anything about her past, but we know how she deals with her current situation. She doesn't work hard, she mooches off her friend, and she constantly complains about the place she lives in. Obviously, everyone would like to live somewhere better than they currently do now, but you have to work for it. She expects things to be handed to her on a silver platter, and when they aren't, she becomes angry and resentful. We have two different sides. Some who do the best they can, and some who just want things to get better without putting in the effort. This movie makes it very clear which side it stands on. It doesn't really have an antagonist, but the closest we get is Haley. We try to emphasize with her because she does have flashes of being a good person and a good mother, but her laziness and selfishness cause her to lose her friends and her only daughter. In the end, her actions are what caused her misfortune. The Florida Project's ending can be viewed two ways. When Jancy runs away with Mooney to Disney World, you don't know how to feel. On one hand, you're happy for them. They finally got to do something enjoyable and fun and something that kids would want to do. They got to go to the happiest place on earth. But on the other hand, you know that this happiness and escapism is fleeting. They will eventually be found and their harsh reality will come crashing down on them. It takes the mind of a child to believe that they really can just run away from all their problems, and it's up to the viewer if they want to escape with them or not. This theme wouldn't have come across as effectively as it did if it weren't for the great acting. I really disliked Bria Vinaitia's character, and I thought that was due to the great writing, but also her great performance. This was her first major motion picture role, and she knocked it out of the park. I felt disgusted by most of her actions, but I think what Bria really brought to the role that made it stand out were those brief moments where you thought maybe she could turn it around. Many actors can play nasty characters, but her glimpses of goodness really brought an extra layer to the performance. No one is wholly good or bad. She plays an extremely complicated character, because that's how humans are. Willem Dafoe was the other powerhouse in this movie. His performance earned him a supporting actor Oscar nomination. His role as Bobby, the sympathetic landlord, was simply fantastic. He had the best intentions for everybody, but he also had his limits. Deep down he was a nice guy, but he had moments of anger and irritation. He had to run a business after all. But like I said earlier, it was Dafoe's ability to flip the switch from cranky landlord to caring father figure that earned him that Oscar nom. In one particularly disturbing moment, Bobby confronts a pedophile who was alone with some of the motel's children. He leads them away from the children and eventually releases his full wrath on them. Dafoe showcased such a wide amount of emotion in just that short scene. I felt angry, relieved, scared, and vindicated all at once. It takes a special kind of performance to do that. Dafoe's rough exterior, juxtaposed with his kind interior, was the exact performance needed for this character, and he was the perfect actor for the job. Normally, I find children actors to be inauthentic. Whether that be due to poor writing or acting, I don't know. But all of the children in this movie were great. They felt like real children. Brooklyn Prince, Christopher Rivera, and Valeria Cato all were fantastic, and did not bring the movie down in the slightest like some children actors do. They felt extremely genuine. They laughed, cried, and played just like real children. If you didn't know any better, you could mistake them for non-actors and just children that happened to be living at this motel. All across the board, there were no poor performances. Everybody brought their A game. I do have one pretty big criticism of this movie, and that's that I believe it was too drawn out. I felt like it really could have benefited from a shorter runtime. It wasn't the longest movie in the world, running at 1 hour and 51 minutes, but I felt there were some scenes that could have been cut out, and the final product wouldn't have suffered. I understand the director and writers were trying to showcase all of the unfortunate things that happened to these characters, but there were times where I was like, okay, I get it. We don't need to see everything that happens to them. The movie doesn't feel slow, but I do believe it could have benefited from a few scenes cut. The Florida Project reminds me of a previous A24 movie, American Honey, but I believe it does a better job of portraying lower-class America. American Honey focused on young adults rather than adults and children. I think the innocence of the children was necessary to making the movie relatable. American Honey didn't really resonate with me because I kept thinking the whole time that, they could do something different with their lives, which made it hard to empathize with them. You empathize with the children because they don't have control over their situation, and in turn, you're definitely more invested in these characters. I think The Florida Project was a great look at an often unrecognized part of America, led by masterful acting, writing, directing, and cinematography, which is only slightly let down by its unnecessarily long runtime. It's not a movie I'd probably want to watch anytime soon again due to its depressing subject matter, but I definitely would recommend everyone give it a watch at least once. Well, I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my birthday. I hope my wish comes true. Please, Willem Dafoe, please come to my birthday party. Please. It would be the best thing in the world. I've still got 6 hours for him to show up. If you're watching this, Willem, and you can't make it, just let me know in the comments. I give The Florida Project 7 out of 10 stars. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.